Hey guys, Benton here with Clean Fair Magic. I am so excited. I'm thrilled. We won. And because of that, I'm bringing you the champion deck tech for the Bloomburrow Precons. And my commander was Hazel of the Root Bloom. And I'm thrilled we won with her. I think she is adorable. She's a wonderful, wonderful card. So fun to play around. And really takes advantage of all of the tokens that you can build with this deck. I'm just gonna show you real quick over here. I've got this pile, and obviously they're sleeved. This is how many token makers or multipliers there are in the deck. I mean, you've got like Gilded Goose, Prosperous Innkeeper, Tireless Provisioner, Second Harvest, Nested Shambler, if you can buff them up a little bit, Scurry of Squirrels, right? That buffs your creatures and creates some tokens to go away. Woe Strider, a sack outlet, which helped us win the game. Insatiable Frugivore, I don't know how to say that still.
3 hours later.
And Moonstone Uologist. Those are your token makers right there. I mean, that does a list of so many cards, and I probably even missed some in the precons. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time going over all the cards that I loved in this deck. There's a lot. This deck worked really well together. Obviously, there's some weaknesses, which we'll go over in a minute, but let's talk about some of the key cards and the key synergies in this deck. So one of the biggest synergies for you is life gain. You want to be gaining life in this deck. Tapping for 2 life isn't a big deal. But you want some ways to get life back. One of the best cards in this deck for that works really well with your commander is Prosperous Innkeeper. Prosperous Innkeeper makes a treasure when he enters, which is very useful. However, the second line of his abilities, the second ability that he has, is whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. Well, second ability for Hazel, at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So what that means is, I've tapped Hazel, paid 2 life, tapped 5 tokens, whatever it is, right? And get to the end of my turn, and I have a squirrel token, I can then copy it or create 2 new squirrel tokens because of his second ability and because of Prosperous Innkeeper. Which basically means I'm tapping Hazel for whatever amount of mana I can get tokens for free. Now, I didn't get Prosperous Innkeeper out this game. It's a key piece of the deck, and it would have been a different deck, but Prosperous Innkeeper is a massive part of this deck. Gans Talent did a lot of work. This is a great class card. So what it does is it makes all your artifacts a food. And that's super helpful when you're trying to keep your life total up or try to, preserve yourself for the game, right? Or be able to use your commander's ability. But also, whenever you gain life, on level 2, this was massive. Whenever you gain life, for the first time each turn, create a 3/3 green raccoon creature token. And then the last level, level 3, whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Many struggles with token decks is buffing your creatures enough that they're not just stupid little 1/1s. Brings me to my next card of benefiting off of those stupid little 1/1s. They're not really stupid, but it's Skull Clamp. It can be a struggle to draw enough cards. Well, Skull Clamp is pivotal for card draw in this deck. You're creating so many tokens that if you can get Skull Clamp onto those 1/1 tokens, you can get 2 cards. You can also couple that up with some of the best cards, in my opinion, that were helping me win. Cards that kill off your opponents by pinging them for damage when creatures die. Cards such as Zulaport Cutthroat, Bastion of Remembrance, as well as Nadir's Nightblade. All of these have, whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, or Nadir's Nightblade is a token, when a token leaves the battlefield, not too big of a deal. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life, or simply just each opponent loses a life. That can really add up, especially if you have all 3 of those out there. You're sacking a 1/1 and it does 3 damage to every single person. That could be huge. You're drawing 2 cards. There's a lot of synergy there. Now, next card I want to talk about is Swarmyard. It's a land. Why would I want to talk about a land? Well, it's the second tap ability that makes it very, very powerful. It is regenerate target insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. Basically just acts as a little bit of protection, regeneration for your board, which is very nice and necessary in a token deck. Academy Manufacturer allows clue, food, or treasure tokens to turn into 3 tokens. So if I'm creating a food or a treasure token, which there's plenty of those in here, I now instead create 3 tokens each turn, which that goes into the next card really well, which is Chatterfang Squirrel General. I think this is the biggest card in this deck. I think this is the card that is just amazing. You could make this card your commander all by himself. He is amazing. Chatterfang is a 3/3. He has Forest Walk, and if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrel tokens are created instead. As well as you can pay 1 black, sacrifice X squirrels, and target creature gets +X -X until end of turn. This card does work. It does work. So it not only creates tokens, squirrel tokens off of whenever you make any other tokens, imagine pairing that up with Academy Manufacturer, but also you'll use it to sacrifice squirrels in order to remove targets from the board. Chitter Spitter is another huge card for this deck. It's very synergistic. I think that's a word. I don't know. Anyways, very synergistic with this deck because you can sacrifice a token, but you can also create a token and then it buffs your tokens. Tireless Provisioner also benefits this deck a lot. It's got that landfall when you're creating tokens, which is the equivalent of mana. So you're getting like 2 mana for 1. It's pretty good. Once you've got those tokens out there, Second Harvest can be huge for you and make it so that you can either win the game or withstand whoever else is a threat out. Can't forget to mention Sword of the Squeak. It gives whatever creature it's equipped to a +1/+1 for each creature you control with the base power toughness 1. And then whenever a hamster, mouse, rat, or squirrel you control enters, you may attach Sword of the Squeak to that creature. And equip cost 2. This one's going to be a huge card in any token deck you've got. Now, there are a couple of different win cons here. Obviously, the goal of this deck is to get out as many tokens as possible. Some other possible win cons, though, for you are Beastmaster Ascension, getting the quest counters on Beastmaster Ascension and making basically everything 6/6s at least, right? Given that +5/+5 boost, as well as End Raise Forerunners is a big card. Those two, in my opinion, are game ending. Another card that can be game ending, and this takes a little bit of synergy, and we saw this in the game, is having out cards such as Nadir's Nightblade, Zulaport Cutthroat, Woestrider, which obviously helps you sack your tokens endlessly. Bastion of Remembrance as well going on top of there. If you can have those out there, you will probably win the game. It'll be really hard to stop you, especially if you're creating enough tokens and you're sacking those tokens, especially creature tokens. It'll lead you to the win. Okay, so now that we've come to the end of the deck tech, some of the things I want to talk to you about is a possible second commander that could work with this, and that is the Odd Acorn Gang, which is a 5/5, 5 mana cost, menace, trample, and reach. Squirrels you control have tap target squirrel. Tap target squirrel gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Whenever 1 or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player. So this card kind of gets rid of one of the weaknesses of this deck. It has very few ways to deal with flyers. So that makes Zinnia, or honestly any other flyer that happens to be in there, Miss Bumbleflower included, really dangerous and a counterplay to this deck. This card is also great for card draw, which you want to have, and it's a key strategy, right? We see that in all the games that we see on YouTube and anywhere. The player that can get the cards he needs is the one that wins. One of the other weaknesses is board wipes. That can be beneficial depending on what cards you have out there, depending on if like Zulaport, Bastion of Remembrance, or a number of other cards are out there that are going to make it beneficial for you to have a board wipe. But for the most part, board wipes are counter to the productivity of a token deck. And so those are some of the weaknesses, a lot of the strengths. of this deck. I'm very grateful that we won. I'm glad that you're here and you've watched this, and we hope that things go well for you and you continue to watch us, continue to enjoy Magic. Thanks.